Bags is the Bags revs. Is that it reminded me of a
Bags
sock
man.
puppet? Yeah, it reminded me
man.
the video. I would like the video to be a sock puppet running down a road, terrified, endlessly looking over its shoulder.
Do sock puppets have shoulders?
Tiny shoulders.
And you would never see the sock puppet's feet, though, would you?
No,
Because it is a sock puppet. I guess you could cut to just the feet.
That's right,
Which is
yeah.
now two fingers with some little woolen socks on.
Yeah.
If you are, I mean, I was going to say, you know, you could knock that up in 10 minutes, I thought, and ding dong, win awards for it. I'm sure if Michelle Gondry did it would win all kinds of awards. If
well,
we do it, it's just a bit of YouTube nonsense. And Harry.
Yeah, I mean, it was just good, wasn't it? I mean, putting it up against Hot Chip, it's just a mismatch. It's not fair. I feel sorry for Hot Chip.
Well, let's see if in this giant three-way arm wrestle, there is one more contender, and we'll see how he fares. It's Kanye West. His album, I think, has had mixed reaction from various quarters. Here he is duetting with or featuring Chris Martin of Coldplay, and here's a tune, Homecoming. Sorry, let's turn into Steve Wright there, but I apologise, but it is very catchy. That's Homecoming, Kanye West featuring Chris Martin, and we can't seem to find any evidence of when that tune's being released.
No.
So if you are a fan, keep an eye out. No doubt KanyeWest.com will keep you fully abreast. So there we are, and it's a curious mix of Chris Martin there and Kanye. It sounds a little bit like they've had a sort of knees up, an old Joanna in a pub somewhere, and Chris is bashing away, and then, oi, who's this who's just come in for a pint? It's only Kanye. He's come on with a little bit of rapping. Oxford Bags, you love a bit of hip-hop. What's your thought?
I just love the idea of what they must have talked about when the mics have switched off. You know, Kanye, Chris, we're going to take 10 minutes, just got to rejig the mics a bit. And they're left there, kind of hands on their hips, slightly kind of... Hey, how you doing? What do you spend your money on, Kanye? Diamonds, really. Rings, platinum. What about you, Chris? Knitting, muesli, stuff for the kids. You know, all that sort of thing. And I think Chris is slightly he hasn't got enough to do in that. And the yodeling at the end, it sounded a bit like Peter Gabriel, but it wasn't on it. But I love Kanye. He's all right.
Yeah. I'm not going to have a bad word said against Chris.
No.
He's a great man. He's a lovely man. And Tiny Dan, do you agree with Oxford?
Well, once again, slightly different, I'm afraid, and I know he's my better and everything, and I'm sorry, Oxford, but I liked it. I thought it was jaunty, as long as Chris doesn't use it as evidence when he's at a dinner party with Gwyneth and perhaps some of the other big shots around there, that he's sort of a bit more ethnic.
Right,
You know?
okay.
Oh, I did that track with Kanye, so I'm not well ethnic. I'll be annoyed. If he does that, I'll be right annoyed, but otherwise, quite like it.
I'm well ethnic,
Yeah.
you think he might say?
He might say that.
Yeah. Chris Martin showing off by going, I'm well ethnic.
Yeah, he might slip it on.
He'll do it like it's the first thing on the list. I did the single, I did the thing with Kanye,
Yeah.
didn't I?
I've given money to Comic Relief. I'm well ethnic.
He is well ethnic, so
Yeah.
don't do that, and I'll buy it.
Chris Martin and hip hop and people of ethnicity. So that tune surely was not something you enjoyed.
What an odd list of things for me to allegedly hate. Well, it's fair
Only
to
one of them is false.
email in if you know the answer. There was never a wetter mummy's boy than Chris Martin, it's fair
Oh,
to
shut
say.
up. He's a lovely man.
I'd love to see the video. I just want to see him sort of throwing some hip-hop moves. That would be quite amusing. But the tune was okay, but the new Jay-Z tune just tramples all over everything at the moment.
Maybe you'll be playing that in our retrospective of the year.
Maybe.
Maybe you should have thought of that. You keep raving about this Jay-Z tune, but you've not brought it in, have you? It's normally some indie guitar twaddle.
Well, that's what people expect of me.
Yeah, well, look forward to that later. Sammy, your final thoughts?
I enjoyed it. Chris Martin was underused, and his yodeling sounded like he's trying to be the new Sting.
Ooh.
And he's not going to be the new
That's
Sting.
a bitchy
because
remark.
Sting.
Sting is indeed Sting. Well, and on that profound thought,
we've learned anything,
we'll play some Blondie. New single by Clocks, that's called All I Can. Prior to that, we had Blondie and Rip Her to Shreds from 1977. It's the Steve Show, BBC Six Music, with me, Stephen Merchant, and my little gang of pre-Christmas chums. We've got Harry, works in a bank, Oxford Bags, Rufus, that's his new nickname, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It could be quite a cool sort of rap. If you ever actually make a rap album, a hip-hop album, you could be called Oxford Bags. That's not a bad nickname, actually.
Well, I've got a bit of time in the studio penciled for March next year.
Excellent, okay. So you'll have that out before you get married, and you'll be able to bust it live on the mic at your wedding, which would be fantastic.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
We've got Sammy from the north, and also Tiny Dan, who is a sort of. I was thinking actually, Dan, that you're often not able to make it, and often when you do, you don't contribute. According to the fans.
Yeah.
But do you know what? You bring sort of a smile to my face. You're like a little mascot. If you ever see like a long distance lorry driver, he might have a little teddy sort of strapped to the grill, or maybe just sort of nestling in the window. That's very much how I see you. Or maybe like a Garfield who's sort of got those suckers and is on the side of a car, on the back window. That's very much.
I am your muse. Yes.
No, you're not my muse. You're more of a sort of plaything.
Yeah.
Like again, if I was a dog, you'd be like an old rag doll that's covered in spittle and whatnot. And I just drag around. Occasionally, people will throw you across the park.
Yeah.
And I go in chasing after you.
When you speak of me in such glowing terms, it's a miracle I moved out, really, isn't it?
It's strange, isn't it?
Odd. I
It's
wonder why
weird.
I did. I don't know.
How's it going anyway? Not living with me.
Well, it's odd. I've got a sort of growing sense of self-worth and of my value to society.
Oh, I don't
which
like
is
that at all.
Very strange.
You
I
should
don't
move
know.
back in again in the new year, just for a month.
I need you to stamp that out of me.
Yeah, we can get that out of you again.
Yeah.
Listen, it's annoying actually. I don't really have a bitch anymore, as
No.
they say. So it's a shame. If you'd like to volunteer for that position, get in touch. Stephen.6music@bbc.co.uk. Someone who can be bullied and ridiculed for my pleasure.
It's not that bad.
It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, you fed me occasionally.
I did indeed. Sammy, you have come all the way from the north, and it's your musical choice next. Before you tell me what it is, how are you?
I've had one of those weeks where little niggly things happen, but because it's Santa stressful, you just cry.
It's what? Santa stressful?
Santa stressful. It's Christmas stress that only comes around once every year.
You always seem such an upbeat person. Do you spend a lot of time teary-eyed?
Not teary-eyed. I mean, the tears we alone, brief, move on, it's over and done with. But there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of presents to buy, and cards to write, and people to make happy, and it's, whew. And if something small happens, like staying at my agent's house on Sunday night and washing myself in a dog's shampoo by accident, I am going to cry.
You washed yourself in her dog's shampoo?
I did.
Now, what happens in that instance?
It's a guest
You're
bathroom.
nick-free now.
So that's where they wash the dog. And normally she's got a bit of body wash or whatever in there, so I don't take my own. I thought, oh crumbs, I'm gonna have to use something. That says wash or scrub. I'll use that. And it smelled a bit funny. It didn't smell bad, just not right.
Right.
And then I inspected the bottle and realised what I'd done and just had to cry a bit. And then get rid of the smell with hand wash, which was moisturiser. It was just an endless battle against myself and my own
Goodness me.
stupidity.
Your hair is very glossy, though.
I've got a
is.
shining coat. It has to be said, but yeah, it was
And
just
no
one of those
lice.
things. No, none at all today. And then I burnt my arm reaching for icing sugar.
Did you cry?
I did. I
Oh,
did.
no.
But I got over it.
Yeah.
And then I went to show my dad, look what I've done, and he went, don't be proud of yourself. I was like, I was just showing you. Oh dear.
And then you cried.
He did. I didn't cry again. I've kept it in. I haven't cried for at least 26 hours.
Are you, if someone was going out with you, a boyfriend, are you sort of high maintenance?
Not really.
You're not
no.
the sort of woman who's sort of endlessly crying. People have got sort of talked you down from a ledge, metaphorically, or sometimes not.
Sometimes not. It just depends on my mood. I mean, it does just depend, and I am very stressed at the moment, but I don't tend to cry in front of people.
Sure.
I do a lot of crying on my own, and it does make you feel better.
Do you?
Yeah.
You don't strike me as that person. You always seem very upbeat and full of life here. It turns out that you're actually a little bit mental.
I'm not a little bit mental, I just like a good cry. Girls do that. I mean, you're a boy and you don't understand these things, but you whack on Moulin Rouge and you have a good cry. That's a Friday night for me.
I think, come on, Harry. Are you going to do it, or is it going to be me?
You can do it this
No,
time.
you
I'm
do it.
always
You
like-
do it. Go on.
No. Well, yeah. When
We've all had
whenever
a-
I'm feeling low,
You whack on Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the tissues out.
Shed a tear.
Come on. That had to be done. That's when you are in this kind of business and you get the opportunity for that kind of smut. It can't be overlooked. It's what the listeners
There was me
expect.
thinking you cared. It was all a big setup for your filthy minds.
Thank you very much indeed
No,
for
no.
telling us about your miserable life. Can you cheer us up now with a musical
I
choice?
can't really, because this is one of my sad songs. I'm picking this because we're not exactly on Christmas yet. I'm going to have something jollier next week. But this song's called The Price of Winter, and I think it's important to understand the price of winter, both monetarily and emotionally. And this is by the Amazing Pilots, one of which, their brothers Paul and Phil, is Duke Special's guitarist. So it all comes round in a beautiful circle. So this is The Price of Winter.
I should just explain to you, the listeners, no secrets, that this studio is just, every week, it gets more and more full with tasty nibbly treats, which people bring in. Sammy, you've actually baked some of these delicacies, haven't you, yourself?
Yes.
That's where you burnt your arm. We've got, like, sort of fairy cakes and lots of banana-themed cake today. We've got tea cakes, biscuits. I mean, it's just preposterous.
But someone sat on me tea cakes, I had to replace them with biscuits. That's not an extravagance, that's a necessity.
Who sat on your tea cakes?
The bitch sat next to me on the train, and that's the only word for her, because she didn't say sorry, and the cream had clearly leaked out of one of them, and that's all I'm going to say on the issue. I didn't get angry with her, I've kept it in, I had to have an outburst.
What were you... why did you put your tea cakes on the seat next to you?
I didn't! She was taking up so much room! Oh...
Calm down.
fine.
Are you going to cry?
No, I might.
Have a tea cake.
A squash. There's only 2 intact ones, and I wanted to keep them. Oh, it's okay. I'll be fine.
All right. What was the name of the tune you just played for us?
I can't remember. It's not important.
You don't even care anymore.
It was The Price of Winter by the Amazing Pilots, and they're worth checking out, especially this time of year because it's got a nice festive tinkle to it.
Thank you very much. I know that the Six Music faithful will be furious with me for even mentioning the name of the X Factor. I think what you have to do to enjoy that programme, people, is not think of it as a music show. Think of it merely as obviously in the early stages, a freak show, and then later, just a classic talent contest. And frankly, as populist entertainment goes, nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned talent contest. In days of yore, it would have been, you know, a man hitting his head on it with a tray or something. That would have sufficed in the 70s, or like a little child with a sort of falsetto voice. That would have been good. But nowadays, you need to have a little bit more class. And I think it was a bit of a shock win. If you didn't see it last night, switch over now if you've maybe recorded it and you're going to watch it later. If you don't care, I'm sure you'll be switching off anyway. But if you do, keep one eye on it. It was something of a surprise to see that it was not the bookies' favourite Ridian that won, but it was actually tiny little weird... Not weird, that's not fair.
No, it is.
You know the one I mean?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. It's already
Leon?
Leon. Leon won in a surprise twist. And now it's interesting because there's something I think Charlie Brooker pointed out in the early stages. Whenever you see the 4 judges go to sort of Manchester or wherever, they sort of appear. They kind of come out to kind of greet the hordes of people that have arrived, and they kind of come out on this sort of often on kind of a balcony overlooking the hordes of people, and there's something deeply sort of fascistic about the imagery. You know, often there's sort of Flight of the Valkyries or something playing, and they kind of come out and sort of give their kind of grand gestures, and there is this sort of slightly eerie, but then even each week as they come out and these the judges, and again there's normally sort of some big kind of menacing Germanic music playing, there is something slightly eerie. It does remind one of a sort of Nazi rally, and of course that's been compounded this year by Ridian, who, dare I say it, looks like a sort of Aryan Superman with his sort of white hair and his kind of suits, often sort of black suits. He went back to visit Wales, where he comes from, and he arrived in a sort of blacked out limo and kind of climbed out, and he's got, dare I say, and I don't want to criticise him because I like him, but he's got a sort of, there's a sort of deadness in the eyes, isn't there, with Ridian? and he sort of came and he climbed out of the car, and all these hordes are greeting him, and again there was something slightly 1938 Germany about the whole thing. And then when the result was announced, they hugged, both he and Leon hugged, a bang went off because I think there were some fireworks, but for a second I thought he'd pulled out a Luger and just shot Leon in the belly. There was just that feel about him, because I think what swung it for Leon was that he blubbed when they showed a kind of retrospective before the final vote, whereas when they showed that for Ridian, he no emotion. He was kind of cold, and he reminded me of the sort of Euro villain you'd find in old James Bond films, who'd sort of, you know, send for hands, and he'd be sort of, you know, kind of have a kind of eerie look, and he'd sort of hunt down Bond with a sniper rifle. There's that look about Ridian, and I think that may be what didn't swing it for him, was the slight coldness in his eyes. But Dan, you're an X Factor fan.
Well, you made me watch it as your bitch last year.